We all feel that sometimes, don't we? That deep human search for direction, for some sense that our lives mean something.
Yeah, definitely. That feeling that we're heading somewhere purposeful. It's universal.
And we often look outside, right? For like a map or guidance.
We do. We look for external signs or maybe leaders.
But, the source material we're looking at today suggests the real compass, the biggest force steering us, it's not out there at all.
No, it's internal, something so fundamental maybe that we don't even consciously notice it.
Exactly. It's woven right into us.
That's right. So our source today is this really interesting excerpt. It really unpacks the critical role of values, often unseen but totally shaping our experiences or choices.
And our sense of meaning, fundamentally.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's get into this. Our mission here is to unpack how these values, as the source calls them, act like invisible compasses.
Steering us.
Yeah, steering our choices, setting our priorities, and sort of quietly building the architecture of what feels meaningful to us.
Consider this a shortcut maybe to understanding this really core piece of being human.
So, first things first, what exactly does the source mean by values?
Well, it describes them beautifully, actually. It calls them the invisible compasses, yes, but also the silent architects of your meaning.
I like that. Architects. And there's an analogy, too, isn't there? Something about wind.
Yes, that values are like the unseen wind stirring the rustling leaves of your actions.
Ah, okay. So you see the actions, the leaves moving, but the real driver is the invisible value, the wind.
Exactly that. The actions are visible, the values are hidden drivers. And the source brings in Dr. DeMartini's work here.
Right, the hierarchy idea.
Yeah, that our lives are basically organized by a hierarchy of values.
Hierarchy. So some values matter more than others and how they, pull us?
Pretty much. It's like a ranking,
Yeah.
From your absolute highest driving purpose way down to the things you care least about.
And this ranking isn't fixed forever.
No, the source notes it evolves. But at any given moment, this internal order dictates what you naturally prioritize.
And the source makes a really strong claim here. It calls it an undeniable law, I think.
It does. It says your actions, how you see the world, even your destiny, ultimately.
Yeah.
It's all dictated by what's at the very top of that hierarchy, what you hold most dear.
Wow. That's big. So what you value most is like the blueprint.
Exactly. The blueprint of your soul's unique architecture is the phrase used. And the key thing is you don't really have to force yourself towards it.
You just go there instinctively.
Yeah, the source says you gravitate towards it instinctively and effortlessly. You just find yourself dedicating time, energy, thoughts, your whole being, really, to pursuing it.
Okay, so give me an example. If my highest value, according to this blueprint, is, say, knowledge.
Then the source suggests you'll naturally find yourself seeking out books, teachers, information. You'll, devour it easily.
I'll enjoy it.
Find real joy in learning, yeah.
Ah.
It won't feel like a chore. It's just following that internal pull.
Okay. What if it's connection, relationships?
Yeah. Then you'll instinctively nurture those bonds. You'll invest in communication. You'll make time for loved ones almost automatically. It's where your energy just goes.
And adventure.
Same idea. You'll be drawn to new places, new experiences. Maybe embrace risks more readily. Find excitement in the unknown.
The key seems to be that word spontaneously. It's not forced effort.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spontaneous, effortless dedication of resources, time, energy, money, even just your thoughts, constantly circling back to it.
Fascinating. So how does this all tie back to that search for meaning we started with?
Well, the source draws a very direct line. It basically says, your values determine your meaning. Simple as that.
So when you're doing things that line up with those top values,
Yeah.
what does that feel like?
Well, the source describes it as feeling energized, fulfilled, like you're really on purpose.
Meaningful.
Deeply meaningful, yes. And even effortless, like flowing with the cosmic current is the poetic phrase it uses.
Right, that flow state idea where time just kind of melts away.
Exactly. You're completely immersed. You feel joy, deep engagement. That feeling, according to the source, is a huge clue. It signals you're aligned with what truly matters to you.
Okay, so alignment feels good, feels meaningful, effortless. What about the opposite? Misalignment.
Right. When you're forced, or maybe you just drift into doing things that go against your highest values.
Yeah.
Or maybe things driven by lower priorities.
Yeah, what then?
That's when the source says you feel drained, resentful even, just out of alignment.
Like an internal conflict.
A significant internal conflict, yes. The source is pretty clear. This misalignment is a huge source of what we perceive as struggle and suffering. It's like inner friction, moving against your own natural grain.
And this value system, this internal blueprint, it doesn't just affect how we feel about ourselves, does it? It shapes how we see other people too.
Absolutely. The source makes a really interesting point about judgment.
Oh, how so?
It suggests that often when you find yourself judging someone else's actions, it's because their actions don't line up with your values.
Not because their actions are inherently bad.
Not necessarily. Their values might just be different. Their compass points in another direction. So it feels like a clash, but it's a clash of value systems.
That's a useful perspective.
Yeah.
And what about that feeling lots of people have, feeling stuck or unfulfilled? Does the source connect that to values?
It does. It suggests that feeling often arises when you're trying to live by someone else's values.
Like values pushed on you by society or family?
Could be society, family, media. Or, and this is crucial, it could be because you haven't actually taken the time to get clear on your own authentic value.
So you end up living a life that doesn't feel yours.
Exactly. It feels inauthentic, uninspired, because it's not aligned with your actual internal blueprint.
Okay, so if values are this fundamental, this hidden driver, and being out of sync causes so much struggle, what's the key? What does the source say we need to do?
Well, the critical step, it argues, is to get really intimately acquainted with your own value system, your unique hierarchy.
Become the conscious architect? Is that the phrase?
That's the one. Become the conscious architect of your reality.
Sounds powerful.
Yeah.
And what happens when you do that? When you consciously line up your life choices, career, relationships with what you truly value?
The source says you unlock immense power. You stop being like a puppet of external expectations.
And instead,
You become the conscious creator of your own meaningful reality. You're steering the ship.
and our past experiences, even the tough ones, play a role in this.
Yeah. The source touches on that. It suggests your history, especially challenges, isn't just random stuff that happened. It's actually helped refine and clarify these values.
Like challenges sharpen your focus on what really matters.
Exactly. Difficult times often force you to see what you were truly fighting for, or what felt most wrong when it was violated, which points directly to an underlying value.
Okay, this is all making sense. Values are vital. Knowing them is key. But how? How do you actually figure out what your authentic values are? Does the source give us a practical tool?
It does, yeah. It lays out a specific exercise, calls it the dragon trial.
The dragon trial. Okay, sounds intense. And the goal isn't just listing things you think sound good. It's about what's real.
Precisely. The source really emphasizes this requires brutal honesty. You have to look at what your life, your actions, your choices already demonstrate that you value, not ideals, not shoulds.
Okay, brutal honesty. How does this trial begin? What's step one?
First step, observe your energy. Basically, ask yourself, where do I spontaneously spend my time, my energy, my money without feeling forced or drained?
What you just do when you're free.
Yeah. What activities do you prioritize with total freedom? What do you just naturally start talking about with passion? What do you think about most, even when you're trying not to?
Interesting. Look where the energy flows naturally. Okay, what's next?
Step 2, reflect on your inspirations, the source asks. What truly inspires you? What kinds of problems do you actually enjoy tackling? Even the hard ones.
Problems you love to solve.
Yeah. And what do you learn about most eagerly? And importantly, who do you admire most? And what specific qualities in them resonate deeply with you?
So looking at admired qualities in others can mirror your own values. Makes sense. Step 3 seems different. Analyze your frustrations.
Yeah, this one's powerful. The source suggests that the things that frustrate you most about other people or situations are often a direct reflection of a value you hold strongly that you feel is being violated, or maybe the opposite of that value.
Okay, wait. So if someone being really disorganized drives me absolutely crazy.
The source would say that's a strong indicator that you hold order, or maybe structure, or efficiency as a high value. Your frustration points to your own standard.
Wow, okay. That's insightful. So observe energy, reflect on inspirations, analyze frustrations. What's the final step after all that honest digging?
Then you identify your top 3-5. Based on all those honest observations, you try to list what seem to be your actual top 3 to 5 highest values.
And be specific.
Yeah, the source advises specific, concise terms. It gives examples like creative expression, financial freedom, deep connection, continuous learning, maybe contributing to others, health, adventure, mastery, things like that.
Concrete things your behavior actually points to.
Exactly.
So this dragon trial, it's not just theory. It's the source's practical method for gaining that clarity.
It seems to be, yeah. Presented as the way to really see those invisible forces driving you. And that clarity is positioned as the essential first step to consciously aligning your life.
To aligning with your authentic self.
Right. Which, according to the source, is the path to unlocking greater meaning, that sense of fulfillment and personal power.
So this deep dive really clarifies things. Values aren't just abstract concepts. Based on this source, they're the engine, driving our behavior, shaping how meaningful things feel, setting our direction.
Definitely. And that dragon trial exercise, it's offered as a kind of map, really, a way to understand your own unique internal blueprint.
Which leaves us with a pretty pointed question to think about, doesn't it? Considering how deeply these values shape everything, how much courage does it really take?
Courage for what?
To be brutally honest with yourself about what you actually value deep down based on your real life versus what maybe you or society or someone else has always told you that you should value.